This is Jim Kurtz with Harvest Harmonics, and we wanted to welcome you to today's episode of Ask a Farmer. Today we have a very special guest, Ben Hardister, who's been running a number of different experiments with us on almonds, walnuts, and pistachios. Ben, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Great. So first of all, tell us just a little bit about yourself. Like how long have you been farming at this point?
Well, most of them in land development. I have three farming partnerships. The three partnerships together farm a total of about 14,000 acres. I started with grapes over in Sonoma, Napa, and got involved with the almonds and walnuts. They say almonds over here in the valley because they say they knock the hell out of them. So that's why everybody over here calls them almonds. So, but I'm not really from here, so I'll call them almonds.
Okay.
So I've been farming about 20 years, the almonds and the walnuts, but my partners have been farming for three generations. My function, my part of the partnerships that I'm involved in is basically to secure the land and the entitlements, develop the water, and farming partners, as I said, have been in it for three generations. They actually get on the tractor and till the field. So mine is more farming from a pickup truck. Theirs is they actually stay on the tractor.
There you go. Well, that's probably you get the best of both worlds. You get all the profit, and you get to be on the farm, but you don't have to maybe do some of the hard labor that's involved too.
Well, yeah, I grew up on a dairy, so I've been running equipment since I was small. And they say that dirt gets in your blood. Well, once you're
Hmm.
on a tractor for a while, every now and then you just have to get back on a tractor, or you don't feel like life is happening as it normally should. So the
Yeah.
benefit is when I want to run a tractor for an afternoon, I can. And then when I start to get a little bit sore, I can go back to my office and do what I do better, which is the entitlements and the development of the land. But it
Right.
gives me the advantage to be out in the field to see it when the bud sets early and kind of get a feel for what kind of crop we're going to have. And working outside the office is the best place to be.
Right. So in the last 20 years or so since you've been involved with farming, like what changes have you seen in agriculture over the years?
Well, a lot of people have cycled. Peaches used to be real big in the Central Valley, and they're gone. Pears were real big over in Sonoma and Napa, and now it's grapes. I mean, they kind of follow what it is the market demands and where the best money is. And peaches are kind of coming back now, but they were pretty much pulled out in place of for almond trees and walnuts, and then a lot of row crop type uh, crops have been converted over into almonds. Like over in the Sonoma and Napa Valley, there used to be in the little town of Sonoma, there were 75, 80 dairies when I was growing up, and now there's I think three or four because all that dairy land has been converted into vineyards. Over here in the Central Valley, where we grow the almonds and the walnuts, a lot of the open grazing land, same thing from the dairies, have been converted over to the almond trees and to the walnut trees. So the biggest change has just been the sheer volume. In the last 20 years, walnuts have gone from probably 300,000 acres to 500,000 or 600,000 acres. They've doubled, and almonds have gone from about probably 2000, 2001. I think we had maybe 700,000 acres. Now we have a million 700,000 acres. So it's
Wow.
more. So they've added a million acres to almonds in the last 20 years, and they've added probably another three or 400,000 walnuts. That's the
Wow.
biggest change, is just the sheer volume. Another
Yeah.
issue
And
is the development of the independent trees, which grow a bigger nut, something similar to like the nonpareil nut, and they are self pollinators. So you don't need a separate type of tree that's a pollinator to get a crop. Now they advertise them as self pollinators, but I don't know anybody that actually doesn't pollinate. They just pollinate less. So whether or not they actually work with no pollination, a lot of guys say they do, but I don't know anybody who doesn't use at least some bees. They don't completely trust the technology. So that
yeah,
was one.
sometimes you got to how much do you want to chance it? Lose a whole
Yeah,
crop for a year.
yeah. That was one of the big changes when they came up with the independent trees, and I think that probably came about maybe 7, 8 years ago, they started planting a lot of those type trees. You can spot them on the road when you drive by. They're more of a bushy tree. They're kind of round, and they
Hmm.
have a lot of bigger nuts than the normal pollinator type trees. There's something similar in size to what are.
Nice. So, and have you noticed any, since you mentioned the pollinators, I was going to ask you, have you noticed any difficulties with pollination or bees or those types of things we're hearing a lot in the news today about, beehives dying or having trouble. Have you noticed any of that in the last, 5, 10 years or?
There's I'm sure there's guys out there that have problems, just like there's guys out there with problems with water. There's people out there with problems with people stealing hives. I mean, you read about a lot of things, a lot of problems that farmers are having. I really haven't experienced any of that. We use the same bee guys every year, and they've got to take care of their hives and make sure that they're healthy. And we haven't experienced any of those problems, but I know some people have.
Okay, well that's good. At least you haven't seen any negative parts of that. So the next question I kind of wanted to ask you, and we kind of talked a little bit in the beginning before the meeting here, is California is experiencing a pretty heavy drought right now, and I've talked to a lot of farmers that they're telling us that they're either being rationed or there's threats of being rationed. Some farmers are saying they're not sure if they're going to get a crop out. So have you noticed any have you been affected by any of that on any of your farms with the drought and the water
Yeah,
availability?
all the farmers have been. California has the acronym for it is SIGMA, which stands for the Groundwater Sustainability Act. And in California, water laws go back hundreds of 100 years. And what the laws were is that if you developed the water and you spent the money on the water and you put in the canals and you did all the work required to bring the water in the summer down from the mountains at a huge expenditure, if you did that, which would help establish California as a state back in the 1800s, there was nobody out
Hmm.
here, then that water's yours. And so the water rights here, different from a lot of states, is if you own the land, you own the water under the land. Well, they've been trying to break those water rights for a long, long time because there's millions of people in LA, millions of people in Arizona, millions of people that want to build houses, and it's about power and money. They want the power to tell you what to do, and they want the money from being able to own the asset. So this war has been kind of going back and forth about who really owns the water. And keep in mind that years ago, when I say years ago, I mean 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the farmer was a good guy. He had a white hat. He
Hmm.
drove a pickup truck. He was a hardworking son of a gun, and the farmer was a good guy. The guy with the black hat, the bad guy, he was the developer. He was the guy that came in and built a bunch of houses and tore trees down and cut the hills and put in roads and gutters and built shopping centers and brought in a Walmart. He was the devil. He got the black hat. The farmer was a white hat guy. And
Hmm.
what's happened is the environmentalists now have taken and put a black hat on the farmer. They've taken the farmer out of the pickup truck. They put a black hat on him. They stuck him in a big Cadillac with a cigar. And they said, look at that guy now. He's out there raping the land and he's making all this money. So the farmer's got a black hat now.
Yeah.
So with that black hat, it was easier for the politicians to come in and say, we need to get the water away from that bad guy. Whereas 20 years
Yeah.
ago, it was we need to get some of the water to that good guy.
Yeah.
So here's what they did. They said, well, we need to take ownership of the water on that 1,000 acres out there where that guy's planting these trees to feed the world. These trees are out there and they're sucking up all the carbon dioxide. Everybody's so afraid of global warming. Well, my God, you've got trees out there that are eating all the horrible things that supposedly are warming the planet, right? They don't give
Yeah.
him any credit for that. Plus, he's feeding the world. They're saying we got to get the water away from that guy. So here's
Yeah.
what they did. That's kind of it in a nutshell. And they couldn't do it unless they put a black hat on that farmer, which they've effectively done. So then here's what they did. They said, okay, we're going to limit how much water you can pump from the ground. And they came up with a magic number of 3/4 of an acre foot of water by 2040 is all you can get. Now, to grow an almond crop takes 3 to 5 acre feet of water.
Mhm.
So that the same farmer that's got 1,000 acres, he can maybe only farm 200 or 300 acres of that 1,000 acres because he only has 3/4 of an acre foot of water per acre times
Right.
1,000 acres. So instead of farming 1,000 acres, now he can only farm 200 or 300 acres.
Right.
Here's the problem with what they've done. Everybody knows in 2040 they've passed a law no more than 3/4 of an acre foot by 2040. But what they haven't done is they haven't explained how they're going to get there from here, from 2021 to 2024. So guys like me that develop real estate, that go out and look at some family maybe who's paid taxes on their land for 120 years, and now they want to reap the benefits of what great grandpa, grandpa, and dad paid for, and they want to plant trees and gain some income from that land that their family has literally sweat tears over for 100 years. They can't sell that land because a guy like me shows up and says, hey man, we don't know whether they're going to cut it back to 3 acres next year and 2 acres the year after. Give you a 5-year grace period and then take a half an acre and then in 5 years take a quarter acre. We don't know what the schedule is. So
Yeah.
how can I give you any money for your 500 acres? How can I make a deal with you to come out and develop some land to plant trees to help stop global warming and produce product to feed the world? How can we get together and bargain what to do with this land when I don't know how much water I'm going to have?
Right.
It's going to take to plant almond trees before you ever get a nut off that property. It's going to take $12,000 to $15,000 an acre.
Yeah.
Take 1,000 acres. I'm going to spend $15 million, not knowing if in 3 years I'm going to lose all my money and have to tear my trees out because there's no water. I can't do that.
Right.
So everything has come to a halt. Guys that have wells,
Right.
guys that have district water, which means they have canals and they get the water from the snow and lakes where they store it. It's a different story, but even they are being cut back. Right now, there's hundreds of thousands of acres on the west side of the valley, which is west of I-5 going toward LA, where there is no water. Virtually. Yeah. So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of acres that are going to come up this year, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, I know. Like, I was thinking about that, like Salinas Valley, which is like one of the bread baskets. There's like 4 or 5 little areas that I know in California, which are like the bread basket of the world, really. I mean, California is one of the highest producing areas in the world in terms of agriculture. And, you know, you get the fact that they want to do something to solve a problem, but it's like, oh, there's a problem. Let's go, you know, I have a problem with my finger. Let's cut off the whole hand kind of a thing and just hope that it, you know, hope that it gets better kind of a thing.
Well,
You know, they're not looking at the big picture.
That's kind of where we're at with the water. I mean, the good news for the farmer, if it could be called good news, that 1,000 acres, that guy with 1,000 acres, when he goes down and he starts farming in 15 years from now, when he starts farming, he's going to farm 200 acres. Instead of the eggs being $4 a pound, it'll be $24 a pound. So he's going to farm less, but he's going to make a whole bunch of more money on the little bit that he has. So at the end of the day, when everything's all said and done, the one who's getting screwed is the poor guy who needs a little bit of protein in India from an almond.
Yeah.
It's going to be from the family that's a middle class that's working hard, that used to enjoy almond butter, that used to enjoy almond milk, that used to enjoy putting a shaved almond on their ice cream. They go into a store and buy it for $5 or $6 a pound when it's $30 a pound. It'll be something only the rich people can afford to have. A nicety. It'll be like caviar, right? Where the rich people go around at their fancy parties with their expensive crackers and their caviar with the little pinky ring, and the average Joe just looks and he goes, man, what must that be like? So right now everybody can have almonds, but in the future, the way the government has it, and a certain party that's in power right now that wants all the power and the money, and they talk about wanting to help people, but basically what they're doing is stamping the little guy, and especially poor people. Oh my God. You're talking about people in the inner city being stuck eating peanuts for the rest of their life because they'll never be able to afford almonds unless they're a drug dealer.
Right. It's very unfortunate. I'm hoping that things change on that side of it for California. I'm from California. My family still lives there, and it's like I hear horror stories about some of that. But we won't get too far into the politics for this show. But I understand
Well,
what
the
you're
thing,
saying.
yeah, everybody wants to say something that's not going to be controversial because they're afraid they might lose their job. Well, hey, you know what? I don't got a job. I got my own thing, and there's nobody paying me to do anything. I can tell you what the truth is. The truth is, it's no longer California; it's California.
Hmm. Yeah,
The deal is, you got to find a way to operate within their stupidity. Just
yeah,
find it. And they say, oh, the whole planet's melting. Yeah, right. They're saying, oh, there's sinkholes everywhere, so you can't pump too much groundwater. Yeah, right. You can't take one, and this is the end of the story. You can't take one big broad brush rule and apply it to all groundwater, and that's what they're doing. There
right,
are areas where groundwater is a touchy subject. They don't have enough to pump in the foothills all these ranches, and they need to do something with that. But it's not the same down in the valley. Down in the
yeah,
valley, you have rivers of water going out to the ocean you can't even quantify, and yet they put all the same rules on everybody because really what it's about is wanting to be able to tell everybody what to do. If it was
right,
really about solving the problem, they would go on a case by case basis and not have these sweeping laws that grab hold of everybody. It doesn't make any sense.
right. And it's just probably lack of overall understanding of the situation.
So guys like me that work for a living, that don't have entitlements, that sit around and do nothing all day long. We have to find a way to operate within the system and still be able to make money. And when it's all said and done, it's the consumer that gets popped.
Hmm. Right. So on another subject, um, no, everything you said is pretty much true, and it's always you try to help one person, one type of person. Then by the time you again, when you paint with the broad brush and those types of things, when you get real draconian about everything, and then next thing you know, the people you were trying to save are the people you end up hurting. So it makes total sense.
Well, and what they do, you know this, all you have to do is read the paper. What they do is they always take the extreme case and they
Yeah.
use that for everything, and they use that for a basis to pass, as you say, all the draconian laws.
Hmm.
They'll take one area where there was a sinkhole and they lost part of a road, and they'll say, look, the whole state's going. They'll take that one extreme and then they use it for everything, and that's how they get this stuff done, and everybody knows it.
Yeah. Exactly. So I wanted to ask you too about because you're running a bunch of trials for us. In fact, I think you have several hundred acres at this point. I just wanted to kind of just get an overview. How are things looking so far? You're about halfway through the season this year. How are things kind of looking so far
Well,
with the trial?
the prices have almost doubled, so we're doing real well. I think a lot of what we just talked about, people are picking up on that, and the prices are starting to head up just like everything else. Lumber's up 300%. Cars, trucks. I've got guys driving old trucks they bought 2 years ago that are selling for $5,000 more than they sold them for. Everything is going up. It's because with all that phony money, the people that have a product want more of that phony money.
Hmm.
I've
Right.
got people that have lumber mills up north. It takes 40 years to grow these trees. Now you're going to pay them with these phony Biden dollars? I said, no, 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 no. If you're going to pay me with that phony money, I want a lot more of it. And that's what's happening now with almonds and walnuts and all the orchard products. It's all coming around. Well, we farm, all of my partners combined farm about 14,000 acres, and we've set up 5 different ranches. Young trees. We set up 20 acres on sandy soil, 20 acres on clay soil. We set up 100 acres on rocky soil. We set up 50 acres on one ranch that has very limited water. It's a 6-year orchard. The trees look like they're only 3 years old, even though they're 6 years old, because the aquifer up there is not good. And you might say, well, why are you farming where there's not a good aquifer? Well, we did test holes, and the test holes came back and said the water was good. So
Hmm.
we closed on the property and ripped the property, and we drilled the wells. And when we developed the wells, they came back at less than 20% of what they said would be there by the test holes. So we
Hmm.
were kind of stuck. So we
Yeah.
didn't really want to give up on the project. So we went ahead, instead of planting 150 acres on this one small ranch, we just planted 50 acres. And we're right on the edge of not having enough water there. So we thought this would be a great orchard to put the Kyminasi program on the pipe, and let's see what it does to the soil, and if these trees will maybe come alive and get a spurt of growth. So we're watching those very closely.
Hmm.
And each one of these orchards, we have a test orchard, and then 50 to 100 feet away, we have another orchard without the Kyminasi. So they were able to grow side by side. And we started early in on the bud set in February. And what we found out early on, it was kind of strange. We're not scientists, but the scientists will probably have to figure it out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, all the Kyminasi orchards, all 5 of the test orchards, showed 1,500 to 2,000 on our moisture scale, which was classified as very wet.
Mm-hmm.
Test orchards right next door that had the same water, the same trees, the same soil, the same farming, the same fertilizer, the same everything, was right on the edge of being dry at only 600 versus 1,600. And
Wow.
they were all the same. Every single one of these orchards tested the same. And it
Wow.
did that for 30 days. Then about a month ago, we went out, did run another test to test the moisture again. And every single one of the orchards had all flipped. They were all now at 15 to 1,800 moisture content, classified as wet. The Kyminasi orchard and the test orchard. So we theorized that what Kyminasi did is it tuned the soil to be able to grab and hold the water early. And then over the course of a month or two, with constant watering on the non-Kyminasi orchard, the level of moisture built up to a point to where it got to where it showed wet at 1,800 on the meter. So what that first month or two of holding the moisture is going to result as far as yield, we don't know. But we're going to find out in about another 6-7 weeks. We'll start harvest here probably September, October, and we'll separate the Kyminasi orchard product out from the test orchard next, and then we'll see what the yield is, the pounds per acre, and then that will tell the whole story.
Right. I can't wait to see those results. I'm excited.
We're excited about it too.
Yeah, for sure. And then have you noticed any other improvements with Kyminasi on the Kyminasi fields, like in terms of the tree health or
the soil's softer? I don't
softer?
know why. I walked the orchards to do the moisture tests, and it's not just in the shade, in the shaded areas. It's not just in the young orchards. It's not just in the older orchards. The commonality to all of these orchards, walking the test orchard and then watching the Kyminasi orchard, the two side by side, the soil seems to be a lot softer. It's just softer to walk on. It's a subtle difference, but there is a difference.
Interesting.
Again, what's going to tell the story is when we put the pounds per acre into the truck and run them on the scale.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, once we get those results, I'm definitely looking forward to getting lots more orders from nut growers this year. So.
Well, the reason we got involved, I say we, me and my partners, the saying that you can improve the yield in orchards is as old as the hills, and everyone in the farming community calls it, another snake oil deal.
Snake oil, yeah.
Something that somebody wants to get some money for, and then they come back 2 years later and they say, "Oh, sorry, it didn't work for you, but it worked for Joe Blow down the road." And so most guys just shy away, but we don't have time for the foolishness. We got real problems to deal with. But in my discussions with you and with Frank, it became evident to me early on that you guys were the real deal because you didn't want any money. Because I told you I couldn't give you anything until we proved the product. And so rather than say, okay, we'll give us this much, and then after we prove it, we want that much, you guys agreed to say, hey, look, we will wait and let you do your tests. And my thought was, who in their right mind is going to go through all this time and trouble and send out all these diodes and all these transmitters and go through all of this expense and hassle for something that they know doesn't work? Where's the payoff for that? That was the first reason why you guys got my attention. The second thing was the fact that no electricity is needed. We farm out in a lot of these places, man, that are out in the boondocks, and we're running on big generators, big, 200-watt generators, 600-watt generators that are running 400-horse motors. And to have to run the wire over and hook electricity up for some type of a program that uses the AC or DC current is not anything we were interested in. But as it was explained to me, the transmitters that go on the metal pipe, because water has a positive and a negative charge, as the water passes by that transmitter, it picks up that harmony, the sound through into the irrigation system and then down into the soil without needing any power. So my first thought was, boy, this if this thing works, it would be fantastic, and it's not going to take that much time to prove it one way or the other. So why don't we get busy and let's set out to see if this thing works. That's why we did 5 different orchards, 5 different types of trees, age of trees, soils. We wanted to have a complete picture across the board of what we thought this product would do, because we're excited about offering it to our friends in the farming community if it works.
Exactly. And then just the last question, I guess, would be, obviously there's a lot of people where we're talking to a lot of people, and a lot of farmers are considering it, like you said, but a lot of farmers, like you said, also are skeptical, or is this snake oil? Is this something else? Like, what would you tell a person who's considering it, considering using the Kyminasi, or at least doing a trial on their farm? What would you kind of communicate to them?
I would tell that person, hey man, give me a call in 2 months. We have the empirical data. I can show you on paper what we did, whether it was 12%, 20%, 18%, and then take it back to your office, just like me and my partners, and sit down and say, okay, well, this stuff's $175 a year, and we can get this much yield, and if we can figure out this much price, estimate this maybe what we can get next year, I think we'd be stupid not to give it a shot. Let's give it a try. That's what I would tell any farmer. But right now, I would tell them the same thing that I told you guys. Let me prove it. If I can prove that it works, and I have the empirical data, and we've got the orchards, and the guys I farm with, the Aldrin family, the Van Dynes, they've been doing this since the 1800s, and we're guys that run on handshake. We're not big contract guys. We're handshake guys, but you know what? The almond industry is a handshake industry, which a lot of people that aren't involved in almonds don't understand, especially people in the cities. They say, well, what do you mean a handshake? There are no contracts. It's you make a deal with a guy. He tells you what he'll give you per pound, and you shake his hand, and that's it. You deliver, he pays. If he doesn't pay, he's blackballed and can never buy almonds again. But find me an industry anywhere. I'm sure there's not very many where people deal on a handshake. We're handshake guys. We're people that work with the earth, and if this works, then we're going to spread the news to our friends and other farmers, and we'll show you the data, and it's something you're going to want to get involved in. If it doesn't work, whatever this tape is, it'll go in the garbage somewhere down the road, and people forget we ever made it. So find out, right?
Exactly. Well, that's all we ever ask, is the chance to prove ourselves, and a chance to prove that this technology really is the real deal. And again, we give people their money back if it doesn't work. So we look at it like, if you're the first farmer in 400 or 500 that doesn't see any results, then I don't want to take your money because you guys work too hard for it.
There's nobody doing that. We've got a 1,000-acre block out next to the Delta with really heavy clay soil. We wouldn't stand a chance. Their feet would be so wet they'd all die on the vine. But we think that we could grow walnuts out there. So why are we going out there? Well, because there's a pretty good price on the land, and because they had water rights to the canals. There's a big problem though. That's getting the salt out of the water, because it's so close to the bay. There's a lot of salt intrusion.
Yeah.
There's a company out there that said, hey man, we've got this product that will take away all the salt, and all we need is this much money. Well, I wasn't in on the deal. I don't think I would have did it. And I'm not going to mention my partner's name, so it doesn't matter. But he said, hey, that sounds great. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't think I'd do that. Well, he went and spent, $100-something thousand on a product that was supposed to take the salt out. Right now, he's fighting with that company trying to get his money back because it didn't take out any salt. So, I mean, there's hundreds of stories like this, and that's something that Harvest Harmonics won't have to deal with, because they'll have the data to say, here it is, A and B, and if it doesn't work, we'll give you your freaking money back. There's no one else doing that. And that's why we're involved in this. That's why I'm so pro Harvest Harmonics, because I can see the difference that it's making. Yeah, I think we're in a class all by ourselves. We're in a class of one. I don't know anyone else is doing this.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, it's just something that it's been really rewarding for me to work with farmers. Both of my grandparents were farmers, and I found out about this 5 years ago, and I decided I really wanted to. When I found out the results were being obtained even back then, I decided, this is something I think is going to help farmers, and it's definitely something that I want to put my efforts behind because, at some point you gotta look at the world's problems and pick your area and say, I'm going to make this part better. This was my opportunity to kind of give back and help out the previous generations who worked so hard to give us this.
And if it works, it'll do it.
Yeah.
When almonds are $3 a pound, if you could get a 20% bump, say 10% bump, we're averaging real close to 3,000 pounds an acre, which is higher than most. I think the average in California is 2,400 pounds an acre. So we're a little bit better. We use a little bit more fertilizer. I like to say we're better farmers. So 10% is 300 pounds. $3 a pound. That's $900. Now I didn't go to college, but I got a high school diploma, and I think that's good math. 3 times 300 is about $900.
Yep.
Now if I can spend $175 to make $900, then that's going to put me somewhere better per acre each year at around $700 something per year. Now that's going to help me a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what
exactly.
We're looking for a minimum of a 10% bump.
Exactly. And
another 8 weeks, man, we're going to know.
Yeah. And I can't wait. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it's been a great conversation. I don't see any comments other than Lisa and some other people saying hi, Ronaldo saying hi. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate having you. And we can't wait in the next six to 8 weeks to start seeing what those numbers really look like, because we want to really help give as much benefit to these farmers, especially with the water situation and everything else that we're seeing. We definitely want to do everything we can. So thank you so much for doing all this testing for us, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Thanks, Ben.